Good morning, everybody. I have a very special guest here today from Signos. Signos is the glucose monitor company that I use to do all of the tests that you see on my page. And we have a special guest. Alyssa Wilson is the lead dietitian over at Signos, and she's here to answer some really important questions. This question I get all the time in my comments, and it is, why do non-diabetics have to worry about their glucose? What's the big deal? Why should people who don't have an issue be monitoring their blood sugar? And
Yeah.
I thought no one better to answer this question than Alyssa. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, we hear this all the time too. And this is such an important question. And this is the reason why we're here.
Yeah.
Typically the continuous glucose monitor or the CGM that you're wearing, that I'm wearing, has been used for those with diabetes. But in recent years, the CGM has been used for those without diabetes who are looking to either prevent chronic diseases or really just optimize their health. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at more of, living a better life, preventing any chronic diseases down the road and just feeling your best.
Yeah. Yeah. And I should add this morning, a while back, it was several weeks ago, I signed up for the 23andMe testing that you get online. It's genetic testing. It tells you where you're from, where your
Yeah.
ancestors are from. And then there's also an option to see if you have any predisposure to certain illnesses. And I was clear for most of them or all of them, except for one. And it said I'm likely or more likely to develop type 2 diabetes. And
Oh,
I thought, okay, what? And I had known this already because I have family members. I have a deep history of type 2 diabetes in my family, aunts and uncles. My mom has it, and a lot of them have had it pretty badly. They passed on due to complications from it. So my whole reason for starting the glucose monitor was for prevention. So
yeah. And it's really important to, put on the CGM, use the Signos program and see what your blood sugar levels are like before you hit that point. So those who are non-diabetic, maybe they're experiencing any blood sugar dysregulation or insulin resistance or reactive hypoglycemia. We are really wanting to see what's going on right then and there before you could develop any chronic illnesses, 10 years, 20 years down the line. And there's a good reason for us to use this and really explore in non-diabetics. 1 in 3 Americans have prediabetes. More than 8 out of 10 don't even know that they do.
yeah,
80% are metabolically unhealthy. Nearly 75% of the American population is overweight or obese. And what's really fascinating is that in recent studies, we've seen that non-diabetics are experiencing, high variability in their glucose. So they're having these swings or these large fluctuations in their glucose, which we previously thought, maybe their glucose levels are stable, and we're not seeing that. So we really want to use the program to see what's going on right now to help you just prevent any chronic diseases, reverse any chronic diseases, and really just feel your best and live a healthy life.
yeah, it's so important. And you look at how it's trending too. The diabetes, prediabetes is growing year after year. So it's not even plateauing. It's just growing year after year. And like you said, this stuff doesn't develop overnight. This is decades in the making. So the
Yeah.
sooner you get on it, and to add to that further, that the age at which people are falling into type 2 diabetes is getting younger and younger and younger each year too.
Getting younger and younger. And the CGM and the Signos program is, a really good fit for people who don't fit into those conventional, diagnostic criteria for diabetes. Maybe they are younger and they have prediabetes, or maybe they just are experiencing these symptoms. When we have these large fluctuations in our glucose readings, we can experience symptoms, short term and long term. So there's a whole, variety of symptoms that you may experience. I'm not sure if you've ever experienced symptoms and really connected them after using Signos and seeing all right, this is what my blood sugar levels are doing and this is how I'm
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah, well, that's exactly why I started doing this, because I had the history of type 2 diabetes in my family, but it was like, I'm 52 now, and about 3 years ago, I started to develop some really weird symptoms that I was going to my doctor, my family doctor, about. I had some neuropathy in my hands and feet, would come and go, but I had really bad brain fog and I was really tired, lethargic all the time. My motivation was like waning
Ugh,
year after year, and I wasn't getting anything done. And I thought, what is this? Is this depression? What is it? I went for a lot of tests. We did the A1C, and he says, I'm fine. I'm 5.3. I'm in that range. Um, but I said to myself, look, the way the system is set up is they don't start treating you until you're a full-fledged type 2 diabetic. So
exactly.
I want to prevent this because I don't want to get to that point where I have to start reversing something. I want to be proactive. And I not only want to avoid that type 2 diabetes, but I want to optimize my health. I want to get out of this brain fog. I want to get my energy back. I want to start feeling motivated again. And that was the real reason I started doing this. And when I saw the whole idea of a continuous glucose monitor, I said, that's it, because I'm just guessing otherwise at what's going on with my blood sugar. And I know that there's a direct correlation with all of the things that I've been reading. All of these symptoms that I've been having fall in line with insulin resistance and, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes. And with that family history, I said, now's the time to take some action.
Yes, I'm so glad you did too, because
Yeah.
we don't want to wait until we just hit that criteria and we're diagnosed with diabetes, and now we can, have insight into our metabolism and what's going on in the inside. You want to be proactive. I love that you said that because that's what we want our members to do. I personally experience this as well. Those symptoms of having high glucose variability are large swings where your glucose is spiking and it's dropping and it's spiking and it's dropping all day. You could, even if those of you who are listening, if you experience these symptoms, which I have personally, I was experiencing kind of like you, the brain fog, the irritability, the hanger, needing to snack every few hours, not being able to go a long time without eating. Those were signs of being on that blood sugar roller coaster. So you have more of those like short-term symptoms that could impact like your mental and your physical health, whether that's just crashing or fatigue or cravings or brain fog or, like I said, that hanger, needing to like snack all the time. Those are more of those short term symptoms. And that's something that using the CGM and really using the Signos program and seeing and making that connection of, okay, what is going on? All right. Me personally, I experienced a breakfast that spiked me so high and I would drop and I would have that reactive hypoglycemia where I would feel hungry right afterwards and a little irritable. And, I had just eaten. Like, how could I be hungry? But when I put the CGM on and started using the program, I saw
Yeah.
that is what was happening. And it's just like making those connections to help improve those short term symptoms, because those can really be improved by helping to stabilize your blood sugar.
Yeah, that's a very good point. There's this initial phase when I started using the monitor. There was a shock because when I started it, I just said I'm just going to maintain my regular lifestyle and I just want to see what it's doing. And you know very quickly what the foods that you're eating most of the time are doing to your blood sugar. And I was spiking 3-4 times a day most days, like really high spikes with these high sugar processed foods.
Mhm.
But you get these really key takeaways right away when you start using the monitor. The other one that I learned that was a game changer for me was that when I'm eating carbs late at night and I go to bed, my normal blood sugar spikes through the day. They'll peak and then they'll come down 2-3 hours after, which is normal. But if I eat that same meal and I go to bed and it's got high carbs in it, that spike will last 5, 6, 7 hours even. And that was a really big thing that I changed. And, when you discover these things for the first time, you are now in a position where you can actually do something about it. Whereas before you just didn't even know it was happening.
You just
So
didn't know. You just don't have that data. Yeah.
that's right. And if I was doing that every night or 4 or 5 times a week, let's say, what is that doing to my metabolic health?
Yeah.
And when I started doing something about it, now I'm addressing the problem that I didn't know about that can maybe ward off type 2 diabetes for a much longer time or entirely. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yes, because you may not, those symptoms, like we mentioned, those short term symptoms, or maybe having that high carb meal right before dinner. Maybe you feel sluggish the next morning. Maybe you have a dull headache. Maybe you have those carb cravings or you need that caffeine first thing in the morning. Those are those short term symptoms. But in that, unfortunately, for many of us, that's our new norm. We just feel like that's just the norm to live every day feeling these. But what we're not seeing are those long-term symptoms that are going on and what is actually happening in the inside. We are seeing inflammation. We are seeing cellular damage. We are increasing our risk for these chronic diseases, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's. So like we're really looking at your heart health. Like we're really looking at helping to stabilize our blood sugar to prevent the short-term symptoms, but also those long-term symptoms and decrease our risk for developing all of these chronic illnesses. And like even now they're calling Alzheimer's like a new form of diabetes. So
Yeah.
we really want to do exactly what you have done, like be proactive and get that insight, because again, you wouldn't have known what that like higher carb meal right before bed was doing to you,
No,
and you
no
put
clue.
on and then you could see that data.
Yeah, and there's no clue. And oftentimes the way you feel is not a good barometer for your blood sugar. Sometimes you feel great and your blood sugar is spiking crazy, or I'll eat carbs that night before and I feel okay. Not knowing the damage that was done. The real data is on the CGM. It's the Signos app that you look at and you can see it spiking. So even though there are so many variables that go with how you feel and your energy levels, sometimes even though you're spiking, you don't feel like you're having these symptoms. So knowing what's going on is really a game changer in that regard for me.
Oh yeah.
And it's like you said, those the short term effects are not always accurate. How do I feel today? Oh, yesterday I ate terribly, but I don't feel too bad today. In the short term, it's difficult to use your physical state or your emotional state to kind of measure, how is my blood sugar? How am I doing physically? But
Yeah.
in the long term, um, you're going to know what damage is being caused, like the overnight spikes for me. Like I would still be eating that way if I
Yeah.
didn't have the signals. I would still be eating that way because I just didn't know the big problem with it.
Yeah, the damage that it was causing. And we have this notes or tag section in our app that I always talk about because I just think it's so important to know how you're feeling. Maybe you started a new medication, or maybe you had a poor night's sleep, or a stressful meeting, or something is going on. Use the notes section to start, taking notes and seeing how you are feeling compared to your glucose, or what happened when you did this and how's your glucose responding. Those are going to be really helpful tools along the way, just to help make that connection. Because like you mentioned, when you first start wearing the CGM, I always say, just live your life at least for the first couple sensors to just see what is going on, so you know what is making the biggest impact and where you can make the changes. Because
Yeah.
don't expect people to make these huge overhauls on their whole lifestyle, because that's not sustainable. And we want long-term lasting health, nothing that is going to be like super stressful and that they can't carry on continuously. So we want to see you making these small changes. Maybe you see that taking that dinner and shifting it a few hours early, or
Yes.
maybe, we see your breakfast like I was experiencing. Maybe if I add some more protein to that, and or go for a quick walk, or expose myself to sunlight first thing in the morning, or maybe I just eat my breakfast and then have my coffee. These small micro changes are going to help you stabilize your blood sugar, and it's going to help it be sustainable, for long-term health.
That's the key to it for me because, when I first started, I said, okay, I'm just going to stop all the sugar. That's, I think, a normal reaction for people when they realize that their blood sugars are a little bit elevated or something like that. They go to the doctor. The doctor tells them they're pre-diabetic or type 2. Like my mom went to the doctor. She had no warning. She just said, they just told her that, by the way, you're type 2 right now.
Wow.
So the knee-jerk reaction for a lot of people there is just, okay, I'm just going to stop eating sugar. And that usually um, causes a rebound where people start binging on sugar and stuff like that. So like you said, it's these micro changes that are so effective over the long term. And the beauty of having the CGM is that you can see which ones are working for you,
Yes. Yep.
because not all of them work for everybody the same. So you get the real data and you can say, okay, is the effort that I'm putting in worth the outcome? And you get that with the Signos. You really get the real data that tells you, okay, this is working for you specifically. It's not based on any clinical studies, because in those clinical studies, not all of the participants have the same reaction to whatever that study is.
Yeah, you're
So
going
you don't know how you're reacting to something unless you're actually measuring it. And that's
to
what's beautiful about this. You get results because you're not guessing anymore.
You're not guessing. And we can talk about this another time because it's so interesting too. Is, you may think that you are doing everything right and you're not seeing results. And then you put the CGM on, you're using the Signos program, and maybe the foods that you're eating have hidden sources of, added sugars, or they're not working best for you, but maybe they, what works for you is not going to work for me, and vice versa. Like, we are all so unique based on a variety of factors. So really seeing, it's so individualized, seeing what works for you, and seeing, like, maybe you are eating something that's marketed as healthy and maybe it does have, several sources of added sugars in there. So you can really see that data in real time, and then use that to make that small change, to help stabilize your blood sugar. And then, move on, keep that habit for, a few weeks, and then start and go to the next one. And
Yeah.
maybe you focus on the next micro change.
Yeah, you adopt these over time and you're moving in the right direction. It's that growth mindset where you're improving a little bit each day instead of drastically changing everything in your lifestyle and then eventually crumbling and
Yeah.
binging and doing all those different things.
We,
Gradual little increments of improvement
we,
daily.
We see that too. I mean, and even as a dietitian and coaching, thousands of clients, having that really restrictive mindset will kind of lead to that all or nothing. So the minute that we fall off, which we will all fall off because we are human and things, life events going on, that we just binge or go to the exact opposite side. So, making those small changes, developing these habits. But the most important thing is knowing and having insight to your metabolism is going to empower you and give you all of that information so that you can choose, what to do as your next step to improve your health. If you are not diabetic, if you're pre-diabetic, if you're experiencing just being on that blood sugar roller coaster, experiencing those short-term symptoms, this is the tool for you to help improve your health.
Absolutely. One of the things that I like about it is that my productivity has gone up. So these changes, these small changes that you make over time, the energy starts coming back, the symptoms start dissipating for me,
Oh,
and
amazing.
that productivity alone is well worth the expense of having the CGM.
Yeah.
I get much more done during the day. I feel energized. I feel like I'm accomplishing what I want to accomplish, and that was the biggest uh, you know, that was the biggest kind of challenge for me when I first started this, is like my productivity was going down. I wanted to do so many things, but because I was so tired all the time, I just wasn't motivated to do it. And there's a tremendous cost to that. Like, how does that impact your life when you're not running on all cylinders, when you're not optimal, you're not functioning properly? You're at maybe 40% of your capacity to have energy and feel vibrant. To me, that was a really big thing, a really great change that I started noticing when I started managing my blood sugar properly based on the the real data that I was getting from the signals. So
And
it's
the
been a
big
game changer.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest signs of being on that blood sugar roller coaster. You
Yeah.
know, those low energy and feeling fatigued and not, wanting to accomplish anything. You're just feeling tired all the time. That's
Mhm.
that's a huge symptom of blood sugar dysregulation. So
Yeah.
awesome job, nice work. Like, it's just incredible to just see such a difference in your day to day life.
Yeah, I just get more done. I get more done. It's great, and yeah, I feel energized. I don't feel like I have to do something. I feel like I get my mojo back. I feel like I'm motivated to do
Yeah.
things, which is
Awesome.
great. That outcome alone is great, and at the same time, I can say that I'm doing something to prevent this type 2 diabetes that is so prevalent in my family.
Yeah.
Um, the future looks brighter this way than it does
Yeah.
if I'm ignoring all these problems. And I think there's a predominant mindset that people have, and I know that because I've been in this mindset before in the past, where I trust all the food that's at the grocery store is good, decent, with the exception of the chocolate and the candy and everything like that. But we're advertised to with all of these healthy claims and things like that. And there's a certain amount of trust that we have in that system, in the groceries that we eat. There's a certain amount of trust that we have in the medical system that if I do get sick, I can go to the doctor and the doctor will treat me. And I think that's really typical for a lot of people. But I shifted my perspective on that, and I realized that I actually can have a say in the matter with my health now
Yeah,
and in the future.
absolutely.
And I don't want to wait to be told that I have type 2 diabetes and then have to make drastic changes and then go on drugs that affect your life and the quality of your life and have to fight with these symptoms. And like, nobody wants type 2 diabetes. It's a horrible disease. Like you mentioned earlier, it's like nobody wants that. So having this preventive system in place, the Signos, has been so valuable to me. And I want to thank you guys for having me as an affiliate partner. It's really changed my life for the better. I don't know what that little alarm was there, but I can't recommend it enough. For me, it improves productivity, energy levels, so many different positive things that come out of it. And I have that assurance that I'm doing something to prevent the type 2 diabetes that runs in my family.
Yeah.
So
You're doing all the right things. And
yeah,
just one last thing to say too is that it's important to, really dive into your blood sugar levels if you're not diabetic. Again, if you're on the blood sugar roller coaster, if you're insulin resistant, if you're pre-diabetic, but also if you have type 2 diabetes, Signos is a great program for you to help manage your blood sugar levels and also to help reduce those symptoms as well. We have members on the program that are not diabetic and that are diabetic, and they're all seeing fantastic results and just really enjoying the program and seeing those improvements, both short term and long term. And that's why we're here. We want to
yeah,
help improve the lives of, all of our members.
yeah, I agree. Thank you, Alyssa, so much for your time.
Yes.
If anybody is interested in optimizing their health or dealing with their blood sugar management, if you have type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetic, all of these different things, Signos offers 15% discount to all my followers. There's a link in my bio if you're interested in it. I always say to people, if you can't afford it in the long term, get it for a short period of time and
Yeah.
discover what these foods are doing to you and to your blood sugar, and take that information with you into the future, and you'll be able to improve your metabolic health tremendously with just a little bit of information and these small changes like you talked about earlier.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Alyssa, and we'll talk to you really soon.
Okay, sounds good. Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye-bye.